Welcome back to Common Sense Rhode Island. I'm Representative Patricia Morgan, and today we have with us Mike Cerullo, who is a family therapist who has worked with a lot of people who have been involved with addictions.
No question. When you work with men and you work with the young men, adolescents, you're definitely working with families. And I see a lot of young people and families who are impacted by drugs of all kinds. And they play a really significant and very destructive, disruptive role in the family system, as well as in the lives of the individual who's struggling with the substances.
Yeah, you know, I ought to be upfront about this, though I'm always willing to learn more and see if I can change my mind. I think we need to wait and find out what the effects are, but I have seen so much devastation in my life from the use of, yes, just marijuana.
Sure.
Because people say, oh, no, marijuana is safe and no harm comes from it. I have personally seen lives destroyed with it. And for me, I cannot go down a road if I know lives, and more than just one life, many lives are going to be destroyed and badly impacted by it. Maybe Colorado and Oregon and all those, they'll come up with a better solution, but until they do, it's really hard for me to sign on. But I know you're working with families. You've seen it too.
Sure. And, you know, Dr. John Femino, who is former president of the American Society of Addiction Medicine, describes what's going on with marijuana as just another addition to what he calls the addiction sales industry's way of promoting addiction and supporting addiction.
Yeah, I imagine if you're selling a project, it's great for you if the people are addicted to it.
Sure, the NIH.
You've got a ready-made customer.
Right. In the exactly.
Consistent.
Exactly. In fact, at the NIH summit that I attended last month with 40 major researchers from throughout the country, one of the presentations was from a 35-year veteran of the tobacco wars. You remember when we were trying so hard to get the tobacco industry to become responsible. And what he said was that we need to be very much aware. Okay, I'm going to read you the quote. It's a very powerful quote, a very brief one, but I think it's important to understand the stakes in this, especially in terms of the timing. So he says, policymakers and public health advocates must be aware that the tobacco industry or comparable multinational organizations, for example, food and beverage industries, are prepared to enter the market with intention of increasing its already widespread use.
Oh, now, really?
So you're not going to believe this, but this morning's New York Times has a report in it of a major advertising agency partnering with a major media, one of the newspapers that are selling marijuana, and they produced a report called Rebranding Marijuana. And the entire purpose of this is to frame how these companies are now moving into it. Here are some of the...
So it will be the new tobacco.
Absolutely, the new tobacco.
Cigarette, go into the 7-Eleven and pick up a pack.
They're already talking about how the alcohol people are getting into it. And the problem there is that everybody is talking about, well, marijuana is less of a problem than alcohol, and it also is going to be a substitute for alcohol. Well, that's not the way things are going. They're selling more alcohol in Colorado, and now the alcohol people are marrying it. They're into the promotion of and advertising in marijuana publications.
So let me ask you about that.
Sure.
You said the use of alcohol is going up as the marijuana is going up. Do they work together? I mean, people smoke and drink at the same time. Is that the idea?
Absolutely. And we know that, and at the scientific level, another presentation at this NIH summit talked about the combination of the two simultaneously. There's two ways to think about it, either simultaneously or sometimes you use marijuana and sometimes you use alcohol. Well, that's one of the reasons sales, just the first year of legalization of alcohol, went up 4%. Okay? you're not going to get any public health savings if alcohol is increasing. So what happens here?
Is there a scientific link? I mean, so once you start smoking marijuana,
Right.
you also want to have alcohol, or when you're not high, you want to have a drink kind of thing?
Well,
Kind
that's
keep
part of
your
what, that's
system
part,
altered all the time?
that's part of what they're trying to sell. You know, I used to be a marketing guy back in the Mad Men days and worked with
Never come down?
Madison
sorry.
Madison Avenue's approach. But what's going on now is that they're trying to sell lifestyles and cultures. They talk about it becoming a lifestyle ingredient in the beauty, food, and fashion industries. One of the advertisements had guys standing around talking, and the caption was coffee, cannabis, and clothing. This is what they're pairing and putting together in their media campaigns or their recommendations for how to approach marketing marijuana.
So a joint, Jello, and jewelry?
Georgia, that was wonderful. I got to remember that. That's perfect.
Okay.
But you know, it's really important to recognize that this is about cultural transformation. Do we really want a culture that endorses this sort of thing? And send that message to young people,
All right.
especially.
And
that's a big question.
That's a big question, especially if there is real damage to young minds,
Mhm.
the way they think,
Right.
or to health,
Mhm.
to safety,
Mhm.
right? Which is I understand they've been out in Colorado and these other states, they have been studying the effects
Mhm.
of recreational marijuana, right? On newborn children and youth and all that kind of stuff. What did they come up with?
Well, partly, a lot of the research on pregnancy and impacts on children came from the Netherlands, some very credible stuff. Now, they've had very liberalized marijuana programs over the last 15 years or so. So one of the major studies indicates that there is a 15-ounce decrease in fetal birth weight over a 40-week gestation. Now,
That's significant.
that's huge. That's huge, and
huge.
that's just one of those things. I don't want to get into
It's a
the
pound-
numbers
a
thing.
pound
That's
less.
a pound less
Yeah,
on average.
and the
I
bigger,
believe.
well,
Right.
you
I
want
mean,
a big healthy baby.
Right,
Big
and if
cheeks.
anybody's interested in looking at some of these numbers, they can go to our website, what'stherush-ri.org.
Okay.
what'stherush-ri.org. We have a great deal of information. We keep adding it every day. You can sign up and have these reports sent to you on a regular basis. But what this gentleman who'd been fighting the tobacco wars all that time said is that if you're going to legalize, you got to have a regulatory board in place from day one that cannot be controlled by the industry, and that you are in a position very quickly to issue a black box warning on the product, assuming that it is legalized. We had to fight how many years, decades, to
get
get
it
that
on
with
cigarettes.
tobacco and on alcohol. Why do we not want to do that ahead of time and take our time? If these 113 people at the State House are going to make that decision, and of course I know that's not
I think
something
we
you want to
really
do.
do want to have all that in place before we legalize, but let's talk about that a little bit more in our next segment.
Great.
Right now we're going to take a break and find out, are you kidding me?